This is my audience. Today I will be informing you about the symptoms and side effects of Down syndrome. This topic is very important to me because my sister Lauren suffers from the disability, and that's why I chose this topic. Down syndrome is a condition in which there is an extra chromosome on the 21st chromosome, on the pair, 21st pair, according to Healthline. This happens during cell division, and most common cell mutations is due to the fact of Down syndrome. There are 3 types of Down syndrome. Trisomy 21, which affects 95% of the population, which is what Lauren has. There's translocation Down syndrome, only affecting 3% of the population, and mosaic Down syndrome, which only affects 2%. Most people with Down syndrome suffer from cognitive and developmental delays such as speech problems, reading problems. Most also suffer from digestive problems, and they usually have a thyroid that is underactive. When you see a person with Down syndrome, one of the first things you notice is that they're overweight. And the reason is due to the fact of their thyroid not working properly and not processing the food the way it should. 40% of people with Down syndrome also have heart defects such as ASD or arterioseptal defects, according to the Down Syndrome Association of Central Texas. Most also suffer from holes in their hearts, which is what Lauren had, but she was fortunate enough to not have to have open heart surgery. Most babies that have holes in their hearts have to have heart surgery to get them fixed where they don't get worse. Physical features of Down syndrome: they usually have a flattened face, almond-shaped eyes, thick tongue, short neck, small ears. Their limbs are usually shorter. Genuinely, they're shorter than the average person. They usually also have a gap in between their big toe and their second toe. They are usually also mentally challenged, according to Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. 1 in every 700 live births, there's usually a child born with Down syndrome. You can get genetic testing done, which is what most people do nowadays, to see, which is where they take the amniotic fluid, check the DNA to see if there's a 3rd chromosome on the 21st pair. One factor that increases the risk of having a child born with Down syndrome is the age of the mother, according to Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. A mother aged 35 and older has a greater chance of having a child with Down syndrome. Although most mothers that have kids with Down syndrome are under the age of 35, because that's usually when you start having kids. The exact cause is unknown, although there is always tests being done to try to figure out a way to prevent it and the reason it's caused. Down syndrome is a lifelong condition that has no cure. Although when you see a child with Down syndrome, you'll see that they're usually happy and they live life to their full potential. Many have jobs, some even live by themselves, and some you can even see they get married, which is an accomplishment. In earlier times, children with disabilities were usually put into an asylum or a mental hospital due to the fact that we didn't have much knowledge and the parents didn't know how to take care of them. And the world also puts a huge stigma on people with disabilities. They don't really give them the full credit that they can have. Thankfully today we have enough resources and knowledge to take care of people with Down syndrome just like in our everyday lives. To improve their speech and cognitive abilities, most children start speech at an early age. Therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, intervention, this can even last their whole life if they need it. Today there are more than 400,000 people living with Down syndrome currently in the USA. This number would be a lot higher, but due to the fact of genetic testing being done and abortions, the number is lower because they're not being born. In 1983, the average lifespan of a person with Down syndrome was 25. Today, the average lifespan of a person with Down syndrome is 60, but it's usually greater than that. It just depends on if they have heart defects or other defects. Now, as a person that has a sibling with Down syndrome, I can tell you she's usually happy and just always a joy to be around. Even like other people with Down syndrome, you can tell that they're just always happy. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have learned more about Down syndrome and its causes.